last time on Nightlion'sDen. So have I successfully fulfilled my quest? No, not yet. On the contrary, I was actually having so much fun playing this deck that I got distracted from my main quest of focusing on post-rotation. Whoops. I was thinking this deck could provide a really great framework for a post-rotation Pikachu deck. I would be lying if I didn't say I was using a copy of this list to build my post-rotation version, and that I hope to show it off in another episode. Until then, I really just wanted to put a quick spotlight on this deck that you can play right now at your Pokemon Day events that I was actually having a ton of fun playing. So where do we go with this deck from here? A lot of key pieces are rotating out of the deck, which I will now need to address. But there are some new cards being added to the game that might help with Pikachu's weaknesses, mainly the inability to one-shot most Megas in the format. Will this deck look totally different from after another week of deck building and research? Or will the resolute heart of this deck continue to beat strongly? Well, I think I've done it. I think we have a competitive Pikachu deck. Let me show you how I did it. When I last left you on Pokemon Day, I had found this awesome pre-made deck on PTCGO for the Pikachu deck. I had been having a lot of fun playing it, and I really liked the Blaziken EX, Iono's Kilowattrel, Pikachu EX Energy. So I wanted to start there by looking at what this deck was losing in post-rotation. Miraidon was going away, but I wasn't already keen on Miraidon being in the deck to begin with. Miraidon's leaving made some room for 2 more cards in the deck. The item cards rotating out wouldn't be so bad either. The worst card we were losing was Earthen Vessel, which I had relied on heavily for Energy Search. But other than that, there wasn't too much Energy Search available in the new format, so I was trying to replace it elsewhere. Super Red had some clunky replacements, as well as an S-Ball. TM Evo was an okay loss. Sure, it meant I didn't have a fully evolved Kilowattrel next turn, but I was used to running decks with slower evolutions currently. The supporter loss in rotation kind of hurt. Iono is a great hand disruption for decks running Fan Rotom, and I was a little sad to see it go. Arven also hurt. Not being able to cherry pick tools and item cards would definitely make this deck more rely on chance than anything else. So we have some holes to fill. The deck needed more Energy Search, Acceleration, and it needed more Pokemon Search. Firstly, the Energy Acceleration. I tried using the hole that Miraidon left to put a 1/1 line of Searching Sparks Magneton in the deck. At the time, I figured I could use it to activate Briar to take 3 prizes at the end of the game if I wanted to. It would also help with Energy Acceleration. I figured it was a neat tech card, but I didn't want to include a heavy line of it in order to avoid Psyduck ruining any of our plans. Then I replaced the Earthen Vessel with its closest counterpart, Energy Search. Energy Search allows you to search for 1 energy and put it into your hand. Not as powerful as Earthen Vessel, but I figured it would do for now. My assumption is at some point this year we're probably going to get an Earthen Vessel type card, but I don't want to count on it. Finally, I upped the count on Crispin in the deck. In Japan, Crispin is the card for Energy Acceleration, and it is the perfect choice here in this deck. So that was one problem I was confident I had solved. Now to figure out the Pokemon Search. I started with Nest Ball. There is currently no Nest Ball equivalent in post-rotation. However, there are various ball type support for different basic mons. I decided to do a 1-for-1 replacement of Nest Ball with Terra Orb for now, as I was only really using Nest Ball for Pikachu EX anyways, which is a Terra type. I also replaced Arven for Canari. Yes, Arven gets an item and a tool, but with Secret Box being the best item search in the game, and the deck mostly filled with electric Pokemon, I decided that Canari was probably the better option to get Pikachus, Kilowattrels, and Wattrels out on the field. I was confident that at least I made some positive changes to our rotating cards, so time for the last few stragglers. For hand disruption, there really isn't much of a choice. Harlequin is not a great option if we flip tails, and I don't want to leave it to chance. And I really want to keep Secret Box as our A-Spec, so Unfair Stamp is out of the question. So I decided the Judge would be the answer to our problems. Giving our opponent 4 cards in hand isn't ideal, but it allows us to stay aggressive. TM Evo needed to be replaced with Light Ball. Light Ball was the reason that I was asked to start this adventure in the first place. My partner really believes this card would be awesome in the deck, and I honestly saw it too. Light Ball gives Pikachu the damage boost that it needs in the late game to take out something like Mega Lopunny or Mega Charizard. However, I only added one into the deck as I thought Powerglass might be a better option in the early game. And one-shotting Megazard had to be saved for like the end of the game when you also have Gravity Mountain in play. Finally, our recovery card of Super Rod. Post-rotation, we don't really have a one-size-fits-all recovery option, so I have to be strategic in what we change. I decided to replace Super Rod with Energy Retrieval because I thought the extra energy in hand would be the better option. We are constantly cycling energies with Blaziken EX, so I don't need a huge amount of energy back in my hand during the game. With those changes made, I started testing the deck throughout the week. On lunch break, we tested. Waiting for dinner to cook, we tested. Contemplating life choices first thing in the morning? Well, we didn't really test then, but we thought about it. I came to the conclusion that we need more changes. That is the nature of deck building. We don't always get it right the first time, and it does take a minute to figure everything out. I determined that the Magneton Live, though powerful, was just not doing it for the deck, so I cut it. Instead, I added another Iono's Kilowattrel and Wattrel for more consistency and to get getting into our draw engine. It would suck if both of our draw engines were prized. I also removed the Terror Orbs and added some more Canaries into the deck. Canari allows me to get both Pikachu and Kilowattrels for the low price of a single card discarded. It was honestly a way better option than fumbling around for a second type of card, and again, also brought more consistency to the early stages of the deck. I also identified another weakness in the deck for the next deck change. Energy search. Although being able to find an energy with an item card was helpful, I just thought that there might be a better combo I could rely on for the deck. The options I was toying around with were Hilda or Colress's Tenacity. Both cards that did about the same thing allowed me to search for an energy. However, Colress allows me to search for a stadium, and Hilda allows me to search for another evolution. In testing, I wasn't really sure which one was needed more, so the only option was to jump back into testing. And after one game, I decided to just take energy searches out entirely and add one more Veach energy that Pikachu required. Why? As I was testing, I was thinking about something that Rahul Reddy said in one of his latest videos from Japan. He said that the next format was going to be more theme decky-like for of everything style format, and that just kind of left a big impression on me. I don't think we need another cherry pick card if I'm just more likely to draw a card that I want from the deck. Yes, this leads to some bricking, and that's okay. Every deck has a little bit of a brick potential to it, but as long as it worked more often than not, and we're more consistent, then it's okay for the small 10% chance of a brick. And that, we have another testing session. At this point, we're just refining the deck. When I was playing, I was taking notes on the side of the monitor. Every thought that came to my head just got thrown onto the page. And after a couple of games, a through line in my notes just kept coming up. I was having a very hard time getting Blaziken EX onto the field. Blaziken was one of the core pieces of the deck, and without it, Pikachu just wasn't able to be the little monster that I knew he could be. I also decided that I needed to refine the card list down just a little bit further to just the essentials. I swapped Judge for Dawn. Dawn allows me to not only get Blaziken EX, but Pikachu's Kilowattrels, any other Pokemon I might need. I found that I was not using the one-of Judge card more often than not, and any other hand disruption card just really had a big chance of firing back onto me. So I decided it was better to forget the hand disruption and just go for speed and power. Whether it be times I really wanted hand disruption? Yeah, sure. But I figured that it was more disruptive to be taking out my opponent's Pokemon than it would be to be using Judge. I also decided that I might have one too many Canaries, and I could replace one with a Dawn instead, which still allowed me to grab cards, but it would also have the same effect as with the cards I would grab with Canari. One last swap, though, before I could test again. I realized there was a better card for the deck than Rescue Board. With Blaziken EX's 2 retreat cost, Air Balloon was just a better option. All of the Pokemon in the deck could retreat with Air Balloon, allowing them to pivot into the bench Pikachu for free, or protect one if I couldn't set it up. And with that, we're doing some more testing. And we're also kind of where I'm at today with the deck. I think the deck is probably as good as it's going to get for the new format. It was holding its own against some pre-rotation powerhouses like Guardy and Charizard, and although I was losing some matches, especially at the end of my testing, as I was kind of starting to get tired, I think it is successful so far. Here's the deck list on screen if you'd like to play with it on your own. I will also leave the deck list in the description below, just in case you want to just copy and paste it. There may be a couple of changes that I might be making in the future. I wasn't too solid on Dawn, even though I think on paper it's a better option. I wouldn't mind spending an afternoon testing Hilda to see if it gives the deck a better result during play. I also realized that there are 2 cards not in this deck that I kind of would love to try to fit in. The first one being Fez. Being able to draw 3 cards after being knocked out is really powerful and probably could have helped me a couple of times in games. I don't know how this card managed to disappear from the deck list, but it did, and I probably need to figure out how to put it back in. Plus, with Blaziken's ability, I could easily use it as a bench sniper for any Mega Evolutions that have retreated to the bench and need to take 2 hits from Pikachu. The second card would be Briar. My opponent will most likely be taking 2 prizes every turn, so having Briar available to be activated would be great to take an extra prize and would allow us to close out games much quicker. Unfortunately, finding a one of any of these cards would be difficult when needed, so I would need to determine if the loss of consistency would be worth it. What do you think of the deck? Let me know in the comments below, and keep an eye on the deck guide for this deck coming out in the future. I know I really talked through the process of making this deck, and I think it would be beneficial to really talk through how you want to play your first turns and certain matchup approaches. I also think I'm going to keep tuning this deck as the year goes on, as I think it has a lot of potential to be something special. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye. Thanks for watching the video. If you like this video, please subscribe and like and hype and do all the fun stuff. Stick around because there's definitely more coming to the channel. If you like Pokemon content, Let's Play content, and World of Warcraft content, feel free to stick around and subscribe. There is a video that YouTube thinks is the best next watch for you, and here at the below is the playlist to the video you just watched. Maybe you like some more content kind of like that. Thanks for watching. Bye.